we need to have a talk. When it comes to using a cold plunge, how do you properly use one? How many minutes should you spend in it? What should the temperature be? How frequently do you use it? All of those questions we're gonna try to answer here today. Now, for those of you who are new here, my name's Adam and this is Science-Based Fitness. I recently made a video on cold plunges talking about the science and the data behind cold plunges. And I tried to answer a lot of the questions and really provide some information on the truth behind if cold plunges are as effective as people are making them out to be. Now, I'm gonna link that video at the end of this one. For those of you who like the more sciencey side of the fitness topics, that's a definite must watch. But that's not what this video is about today. With all that information, all those studies I read, I try to gather some of the information that they used in the research on the temperatures, on the time frames, and how frequent they use them to create a chart that can better help you guys understand how you should be using your cold plunges. But first, I do have to say that these are just recommendations. Everyone is different and you might handle cold a little bit differently. Maybe you're more sensitive. The first time I cold plunged, it was 44 degrees. I was in like 20 seconds and I had to get out. I was kind of freaking out. So you might have to approach this with a little bit of caution and kind of see how sensitive you are. But regardless, there's no shame in starting slow. Okay, here's my chart. Boom. I'm gonna reveal more of this as we go. There's two main goals here. We have recovery on the left and mental health on the right. Now, these are essentially the most promising areas for cold plunge use. Now, if your goal isn't on here, please watch that video I'm gonna link at the end because the data might not be clear that there's an actual benefit from using cold plunge for your goal. So let's first take a look at recovery. What temperature should we be using? Roughly between 50 to 65 degrees. Now, this could go lower, but most of the research was typically around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you're new to this, you can take it a little bit slower and start with that 65 to 60 degrees. But let's look at the time. And this is what's important for recovery, is that most data had at least a minimum of 5 minutes. And with water that's closer to that 55 to 60 degrees, you could last as long as 15 minutes in a cold plunge. But definitely listen to your body and approach with caution. But now let's go to the other side of this, where we see mental health. Now, temperatures can go a little bit lower here. And I have this to that 45 to 65 degrees. I think this mostly has to do with the hormone changes being a little bit faster. And the studies that looked at this use sometimes even a single minute, but even 30 seconds might be enough time to shock the body and stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. And even consistent use under 2 minutes can reduce cortisol levels. So feel free to screenshot this if you want. But there's still more we need to talk about. How often should you be using a cold plunge? This really comes down to your specific goal. If you're someone that's maybe training for a marathon, an Ironman, or maybe an athlete in season, the use of a cold plunge can be used more frequently. It helps with clearing lactic acid and reduces perceived soreness. So these individuals can get back to action faster. So using a cold plunge 3 to 5 times a week might be appropriate for that person. But for those wanting to get bigger and stronger, you might not want to use cold plunges as frequently. The use of cold water immersion tends to blunt the effects of hypertrophy and strength. But that doesn't mean you have to completely avoid using a cold plunge. I would still say you could use it for the mental health side of it and just do a 30-second to 2-minute cold plunge in the mornings and try to stagger it from the times that you do your resistance training. And lastly, those who are weight loss or general fitness clients, it might not have as big of an impact as you might think. So feel free to kind of use cold plunges as you like. If you're trying to build more muscle, maybe it's not as beneficial, but if you're someone that's doing a lot of cardio and training frequently, then it might be better. So it really does depend on how you train. I hope you guys found some value. Make sure if you did, consider hitting that like button, consider subscribing, and then hit that like button. Yeah, don't consider the like button, hit the like button, consider subscribing. That video I kept talking about is right up here. Please click watch. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments of this video. If you want more content like this, I'll see you guys next week. Have a good day.